All right. Yep. On that, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, hello everyone. My name is Dustin, and thank you very much for joining me today for our What's New in BuildExact webinar. Now, as the name implies, today's webinar is really just going to be focusing on looking back over the last sort of 6 to 12 months and really wanting to touch on a lot of new and exciting features that BuildExact has been working away on and updates that we rolled out in the system. And it's all really just designed to sort of bring attention to that. Sometimes you might have missed it. We know you're busy and sometimes you miss those notifications, but really just giving us an opportunity to go back, talk about those features, and again, make sure you feel comfortable and empowered to continue to get the most out of that and again, help your business. So from there, I like to do a quick round of introductions. So for those of you who have attended any of our webinars or one-on-one trainings, I'm seeing a couple familiar faces in our list here. My name is Dustin. I am one of the customer success managers here at BuildExact. Been around for a little over 2.5 years now. It's hard to imagine. And obviously my experience coming really with over 6 years doing training and onboarding in software. Today, I'm also joined by my colleague, Dan Conlon. Dan Conlon is a fellow customer success manager here at BuildExact, and Dan has actually been working with BuildExact for over 8 years. An incredible tenure, and that's really resulted in, over the course of those 8 years, he has helped thousands of builders and trades onboarding and using BuildExact. So again, hopefully you're a familiar face or you're familiar with us just through our webinars or our one-on-one trainings, but nonetheless, you'll be a chance to sort of get to know us more as we go through today's discussion. Now, in terms of what we can expect to see today, we've got, again, a really packed agenda for you, lots of great stuff. And where we're going to start is where we start every webinar, and that's quickly just taking a look at some of our learning resource and support options. Many of you have probably found your way there to look at our FAQs or our tutorial videos, but I do just want to quickly highlight that at the start of our chat today. From there, we're going to take a look at our dashboard. This is probably the least surprising enhancement. I'm sure basically everybody has seen this already, but we're going to take a quick exploration as to what's in that new dashboard and a couple little hidden tips and tricks to make sure you get the most of it. From there, we're going to talk a little bit about digital acceptance. That's both some enhancements to some existing functionality and some continued improvements there. We're then going to take a look at the client portal. Again, lots of great stuff from all your feedback that you've been sending across. So we've got some really some great features there to both highlight and really take you through what is brand new, like fresh off the press in terms of new stuff we're rolling out. From there, we're also going to touch a little bit on BuildExact Labs. And if you don't know about BuildExact Labs already, you're in for a little bit of a treat there. We're going to touch a little bit on suppliers. And then from there, we've just got a couple other sort of miscellaneous minor enhancements that we want to go through. And well, minor maybe in terms of nothing massive overhaul, lots of great little things we've been able to implement. And we'll touch on those here, of course, shortly. Now, with that being said, we do like to highlight that we do run a series of webinars here at BuildExact. So it might be really natural for you as we go through today's chat that, because we are just going to be jumping into different sections that you might discover a few things along the way that maybe you didn't know. There might be some areas which you maybe haven't had an opportunity to check out, maybe the leads and client portal, or maybe you haven't got a chance to go and check out our supplier or the request for quote. So as we go through today, again, we are going to be really just focusing on those enhancements and those new features. But if there is an area of the BuildExact system that you are maybe wanting to get a bit of a refresher or a bit of an introduction to if you haven't already, then these webinars are going to be a fantastic point of call for you, in addition to the tutorial videos, which I'll touch on here in a moment. Now, with these videos, with these webinars, they are typically run by either myself, Dan, and or colleague Corinne. Some of them run weekly, some of them run fortnightly, but I will show you here in a few moments where you can access the list of these webinars and you can register for them at your convenience. One other thing I forgot to mention as well is following up from today's webinar, there will be a follow-up email coming out. I'll talk a little bit more about that email at the end of our chat today, but essentially just really quickly, you will find a recording. So if you have to run off early, that's okay. You will have that recording sent to you. We'll also include links to some of the content we're going to talk about today, links to these webinars, and also some just links to some other additional resources and training and support. So just want to quickly highlight that for you. And I'll mention that and talk a bit more about that later on. Last but not least, on my little PowerPoint deck here, as we just do some housekeeping, is if you have any questions at all, which I absolutely know you will, and we welcome and encourage that, is to please feel free to send your questions across via the Q&A button, which will be down near the bottom middle of your screen. That's why Dan is joining us today, not only because he's awesome, but because he is here to also help answer your questions. So as we go through, please do feel free to fire those questions in. I will touch on here again shortly around how you can reach out to our support team. So if you wake up at 2 a.m. and you think, oh, rats, that's the question I meant to ask, or as you get into any of the functionality today and start to use it, again, if you have any questions, I'll be sure to touch on where you can reach out to our support team for any support about anything here or just in general. So I want to quickly mention that. All right. So with that out of the way, as you can see, I've already logged into the BuildXact system, and really quickly, just want to plug this Explore section. This is where we park a lot of our training learning content. So starting at the top, that's our What's New section. So a lot of the content that, well, everything, frankly, I'm going to be talking about today will have sort of come up in that list at some point. And that's going to be one of the primary ways which we're going to communicate with you around new and updated features. So definitely worthwhile to take a look at that. And we have some super exciting stuff coming like really, really soon. I wish it had already out so I could include in today's webinar, but we got enough really exciting stuff to keep us busy for the next little bit. But do make sure you keep your eyes peeled on that, where we're going to then communicate that with you and also provide any further training resources you might need to get the most out of it. As always, we have our FAQs, our frequently answered questions. So BuildXact has been around for 11 years, and we just celebrated 11 years. So over time, as you'd imagine, Dan, myself, and our team, we get similar questions from time to time. So we've taken a little bit of space out to build our FAQs that go a little bit deeper into some of the functionality and really step-by-step guides to help you through those areas. Of course, we have our video tutorials. That's basically just, again, a complete library of video tutorials on essentially everything you could ever want to learn how to use in BuildXact. So especially, like I said, there will be some areas that maybe aren't as familiar to you, or maybe some areas you maybe haven't spent as much time on learning as you'd like. It's completely okay. These videos are a great first point of call. And like I said, we do have those webinars on offer. Speaking of that, we do have those training webinars. You can click here where you can either watch them live or on demand. We have our feature suggestion area. So, I mean, it goes without saying that we're always getting feedback, speaking to our builders and trades, and continuously developing these new features like you're seeing and refining existing features. So if you haven't done so already, please do feel free to send across your feature suggestions. Pretty much everything we're going to talk about today came from somewhere, somebody suggesting it, and going through that process. So again, please do feel free to keep that feedback coming in. Last but not least on this section is, like I said, Dan is on deck here to answer some questions. It looks like he's already had a question come in, which is great. So on that, definitely, if you have any questions after, after this, again, about anything, whether things we're talking about here today or just any questions you have in general, one of the best ways to reach out to us is to either click the send us a message here, over here, and also in there. So a couple different ways you can reach out to us. And again, happy for you to send those across. Our team is always available. All right. So with the housekeeping out of the way, we want to dive into our first feature, and that is going to be the dashboard. Now, I'm sure for many of you, you've probably already known it's changed. It's pretty much the page that everybody lands on when you first log into BuildXact, but I want to take a couple of minutes just to highlight some things that maybe you didn't know, or maybe some things you might have missed. So starting at the top here, this is our reminders area. And essentially, it's exactly what it sounds. Here, you can actually go ahead and create reminders for yourself. This came really out of a lot of feedback we were getting from our builders and trades, where you just have a million things going on, and sometimes having it all down in one spot is a really handy way to do that. So I might say, call supplier to order materials. I'm just going to keep it really generic for today. But then obviously, as you can see, you can then decide, well, when do you want that message to be sent to you, at what time? And then from there, you might put in your own details, your own email, or you might use it for somebody else in your business as well. So again, just a great way to be able to add those reminders in. And then again, at that time, if you have a follow-up, if you have an SMS or an email prompt, it will then send that out. Of course, on that, we can also see different or give us different views. So list view, day view, week, a month. And we can also choose whether we have all reminders or only the reminders not sent. So we give you a little bit of flexibility there in terms of being able to configure, how long do you want your list to be? How much do you want to see in one shot? Recent items, that hasn't changed. That's the same as always. Again, just giving you that ability to quickly jump back into your estimates and jobs. So no real change there. But down here, our schedule has also, or the way we view the schedule has also changed. So the schedule here, just as a quick note, it's basically aggregating all of your different job schedules across your jobs into a single view. And really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to give you a bit of a 30,000-foot view of all the different things happening within your business. It's probably a good chance that many of you might have one or multiple jobs at any one time. So in here, we essentially give you the ability to view it not only by job, but also one of my favorite enhancements here is you can actually also view it by resource. So once you assign a task to a contact, that will then essentially lump all those tasks that contact is assigned to in one particular area. And again, the real benefit here is we know this happens all the time is that sometimes it's easy to accidentally double up, whether it be one of your employees or maybe a contractor or something like that, or a supplier rather, sorry, contractor. So what we can do here is we can actually go ahead and see, did we double book them? Do we need to go back and make any changes? And again, that spans across all of the jobs. So really, again, giving you that 40,000-foot view. And as always, we give you the ability to choose, well, what timeline do you want to see it? Sometimes you want to check out the month. Other times you might just want to focus on the week, and you can toggle very easily between them to get the view and get the information that you need, again, across all of your jobs. From there, you can print it out, you can expand it, and obviously, again, you can sort of scooch between months and weeks and all that sort of stuff. So again, allowing you to navigate around each of those sections. So that's our dashboard. I've seen some more questions come in, so that's fantastic. Keep it coming. But we're going to shift gears now. We're going to talk a little bit about another feature that has actually gone on quite a growth over the last little bit, and that is going to be looking at digital acceptance. Now, the concept of digital acceptance has been in BuildXact for quite a while now. So the actual feature itself isn't entirely brand new, but through working really closely with a lot, again, of our users, we've got a lot of really wonderful feedback and starting to and continue to fold that feedback into some changes and some enhancements. So I want to quickly just come back to digital acceptance and highlight a couple of those changes and enhancements here. And the first one to note is under the quote letter, what we've done is we've essentially consolidated the email and the share button into one share button. Now, what I mean by that is you can essentially share into the client portal. For those of you on those upgraded plans that have the client portal, or if you are looking to email, you can also do that through this single share button as well. So really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to just sort of reduce a lot of the clutter. We know that from time to time, again, it's too many buttons as we add new features and all that. So what we're trying to do is consolidate it. But through the consolidation here, we're actually leveraging off of the ability to share and the email. So give this a quick sec. There we go. And in this new workflow, essentially you're just working through each of these tabs here. So under workflows, this is where we have either our standard workflow. That's really just where the recipient of this quote can just view it and then download it, or the digital acceptance, where again, they can view it, download it, and digitally accept that. Now, I am going to touch in a couple moments how the digital acceptance works from the client side, just because we have some enhancements to our client portal, like I mentioned, and we know many people don't always see the client portal, so it's a great opportunity to sort of highlight and champion that. But in here, you can essentially select which workflow you want. Under the recipient section, if you have a client portal published, then you can say, yep, in this case, I want to push it into the portal. And then from there, it's also going to send them an email as well. And then under the email section, this is where you can obviously type up your email and provide any further instructions. as well as, and if you're not familiar with it already, these are all across BuildExact, but we've got presets as well. So you don't have to keep typing in the same message every time. So super easy, where you select your workflow, double check it's going to the right recipients, quickly type up an email or select a preset. Of course, you can add any additional attachments, and then from there, you can share that across. So again, really just looking to make that process as easy as possible, but we're not quite done with digital acceptance yet, because I know this has received a ton of feedback. I was at an event not too long ago, and a guy approached me, BuildExact user, and he said, when are you getting digital acceptance in variations? And we're super excited that that has now been rolled out. So the digital acceptance on the variations is going to operate pretty much exactly the same way it does with the quote letter. So again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but now we're giving you that ability that once you create a variation here, you can click the share button, and we're going to get the same side form where then you can choose to send that digital acceptance share that variation rather via the digital acceptance. And again, same thing, you can just choose, yep, I want to share it into the portal. And then you can obviously, again, send it by email there as well. Configure the email, add any attachments, and you can send it off. So a really, really easy way that we can, again, enhance that digital acceptance aspect, just to streamline a lot of that communication back and forth between you and your client. Now, the last piece of this puzzle, and we're going to jump into a client portal and talk a little bit more about this here in a moment and some other enhancements, but essentially what happens is once the client does digitally accept that, effectively what happens is then you're going to get a notification in the system, whether it be the quote or the variation, that it's digitally accepted. So as soon as they click that button and confirm, you're going to get a notification. And then from there, the status of either the variation or the quote letter will then move to a digital accepted status. Now, from that digital accepted status, all you need to do is then move it back into accepted, again, for the variation or the quote letter, and then that essentially just confirms, and that will either for the variation, flow those items into the actual costings, or for the quote letter, obviously locks the estimate and then fully transitions you into the job management side. So just want to quickly highlight that for you, that just because the client hits that digital accept button, that again, it doesn't lock anything here. There's just that additional step, and we just want to provide that little bit of the space there so you can double check it, review it, and then lock that in and move forward from there. Fantastic. All right. Sorry, that's a little thing pop on my screen. Let me get that out of the way. Perfect. All right. Cool. So that's digital acceptance. Now, we're going to transition out into the client portal to talk about some enhancements there. But before I go into the client portal, I want to just touch on some of the enhancements on your BuildExact side that are really designed to help, again, just streamline and continue to streamline that communication side of it. So the first thing I want to touch on here is the fact now that any of our documents widgets, so this is going to be the same whether it's going to be on the lead, on the estimate details, or the job details. So it doesn't matter where you are. We've got some great new enhancements around the documents widget here. And the first thing to note is, I know this has been a highly requested feature, really simple, but really important, where you can actually now add a description onto the item as well. From there, we can also select multiple items, and this multiple select now also gives us the ability to share multiple items in to the client portal at one single time. So how that might actually look is you might be on site, you might take a bunch of photos on your phone, upload them into BuildExact, and then from there, whenever, you can select each of those pictures or each of those items, or maybe if you're sending some sales collateral, maybe you've got a contract, maybe you've got a brochure and some other items, but you can essentially, once you upload them to BuildExact, select them all, and then from there, you can do one click of a button to share all of that across. Now in here though, this is where we have I said that feature that is literally hot off the press, and that is actually the release of what we refer to as the timeline. So I'm going to show you the timeline in the client portal in a second, but essentially here to share items when I share items into the client portal, all I need to do to include them in the timeline is tick this little tick button on, and then from there we can type in an optional description as well. And it is important to note that that will then be visible in the client portal timeline as well. So this will be something that's client facing. So maybe you're taking some before photos and you just want to say, hey, here's the before photos, or we know quite common during the process of the the construction, the renovation, the work being done. You might go again, take multiple progress photos, and again, including just a bit of a narrative around that. So, hey, Susan, really excited to see the kitchen's finally being installed, or the pool's being dug out, or whatever it might be. But again, really just starting to communicate through not only pictures, but also that description as to what's happening in the timeline. And again, I'll show you that here in half a second. So those are some of the enhancements there, and that then takes us into the client portal. And so the first thing to note is that timeline feature that I was mentioning a moment ago. So I've already shared some pictures in, and essentially here you can see that the timeline will now be at the top of that list over here. And in that, this is where, again, as you begin to share stuff across, it's going to create a timeline essentially. And this is a really important feature. We know that a lot of builders, well, I should say a lot of clients are always asking for updates, and they want to be involved in that. It's a really big, exciting opportunity for them. And so again, by sharing across through the timeline, it's really giving you that ability to really easily and seamlessly communicate with them the progress of it, again, through the client portal. So ultimately trying to do away with all the emails sending back and forth, or maybe having to send text messages and then that getting lost in maybe some important conversations. Again, really, really easy and really clean to present that narrative and that progression as to how things are going. And again, ultimately just keeping them up to date. Now, while I'm in the client portal, I want to just quickly loop back to something we were talking about earlier, and that is around the digital acceptance. So this again isn't necessarily new; it's new for variations. But I did want to take the opportunity while I'm here to just quickly mention around the digital acceptance from the client's perspective. So again, in the client portal here where we are, this is the clients viewing it. So once they receive that, they will receive an email. And then from there, they can either accept it via the email, or they can come into the portal, view it, flip through it, read it as they may need. They can always send messages back as well too, so they might have some questions. Inevitably there's sometimes some back and forth there, but once it's all good to go, they can click the accept quote, and once they hit that final button, that's when you have that notification appear in your BuildXact system, and that's when the status will automatically change to that digitally accepted. So as you can see, really, again, I know I've said it before, but just continuing to streamline a lot of that communication and really providing a really clean client experience for your customers as well too, because they can just accept that and off you go essentially through the process. All right. Getting lots of questions here. Fantastic. Love it. Keep it coming in. See, Dan is hammering away there. So please keep them coming in. It's what we like to see. Oh, there's a question I saw there. Wade just asks, where does the notification of the digital acceptance appear? I can quickly answer that one. I just saw that one appear. Essentially, it's going to be in the estimates area. It's going to appear at the top. And then when you go into the estimate itself, it will then appear at the top of the estimate as well. So big thing too is that the status will also then be marked as digitally accepted here. So again, just sort of further highlights, and you can actually search via your estimates, in your estimates list if you just want to find the digitally accepted one. So quick note about that. Thank you for your question. All right. So that is the dashboard, that is the digital acceptance, and that is some of the enhancements around the client portal. And we're going to switch gears now. We're going to talk a little bit about the BuildXact Labs. Now, BuildXact Labs has, in all fairness, it's been out for quite a while, but this is definitely an area that sometimes people miss. But essentially, why Labs exists is that at the core of it, BuildXact's mission is really to, as you might know, empower the residential construction industry to be simpler, more efficient, and more successful. And a key element of that is that we're always looking to bring new and innovative solutions to our users. And so this is an area where essentially we can give you that early access to some prototypes and some ideas that our development team is working on. Now, I do want to mention that within labs that these are, again, prototypes, they're early release features. So I do want to quickly highlight to you that sometimes these things may have they may have a few bugs and they might not be fully developed. But the idea here is that we want to get something out to you. We want to give you that ability to start to play with this, to provide your feedback, to provide suggestions. And then so often if these ideas if these features in labs, I should say, they get enough feedback and they get enough endorsement, enough requests, then they'll transition and they'll be fully finished, fully fleshed out sooner than later kind of thing. And then again, it'll just be a feature that as you'd expect to use in BuildXact. On that, definitely one, my favorite, actually, I've got two favorites, I'm slightly biased, but definitely two I like to quickly mention is the site diary. This has been, again, quite requested, and this is, again, just that early prototype of that site diary. So if you haven't checked that already, and if a site diary is important to you, then again, absolutely go in there. All you need to do is flick it on, and then that will then be live. And we do have some information in our FAQs around these features as well too. So if you want to read up about them before jumping into them, you can always do so under our FAQs. Just search for BuildXact Labs, and then you'll find an article with the most recent up-to-date features and how they work, and a quick run through on them. The other one I love too is global search. Again, love it. And if you can, and if you love that as well, definitely make sure you send across your feedback that you like it or any changes you might want to it. And so hopefully we can get that feature fully rolled out really, really soon. So fingers crossed. But again, send across your feedback. And as always, just again, quickly plug, send across your feature suggestions. So if you don't see anything in here and you just think, oh, this would be really awesome to have in BuildXact, then again, please do make sure you have your voice heard by sending across in that feature suggestions page. Cool, so that's labs. From here, we're going to transition on to talk a little bit about some of the new stuff coming around our suppliers section. Now, again, this has been a significant area of focus for BuildXact. I'm sure many of you have seen a lot of the notifications popping up as we're continuing to engage and work with more suppliers across different areas of Australia, New Zealand, across different categories and different sizes. And we even have an app now as well that integrates into BuildXact from a supplier's perspective. So if you haven't already checked this out, very much encourage you. And if you're not familiar with how this works, the idea here is simply that if you do see a supplier here or an organization that you do business with, what you can do is you can actually connect to them. Now, what happens when you connect is they'll review that connection request, and once approved, that basically means that you can then have item catalogs and recipe catalogs actually flow directly into BuildXact. So as you're working through your estimate costings, you can actually be pulling items from live items from your supplier's pricing. So ultimately, we're trying to do everything we can to get you away from having, the dual screens where you got BuildXact on one, where you're doing your virtual takeoffs and you're counting, and then having to go onto a supplier's website and trying to find those prices and whatnot. You can have live prices feed through. When they update, you're going to get notifications in BuildXact to let you know that, hey, that item has a different price and you can update it. And this is, again, a big push for us here at BuildXact. We're working with a ton of suppliers, some on here, some not quite released yet, some that are will be launched very soon. But again, continue to work with them to build out their list of items that they're providing you, building out recipes, and eventually in the not so distant future, also looking at providing estimate templates as well. So lots of really exciting stuff on here. And again, a big shout out to some of our newer suppliers and Builders World, Concrete World Industries. We've got Brett's Timber and Hardware, Tamworth Building Supplies, and many more. So check them out on here. And as always, if you don't see your supplier on there, but you want to, then please do feel free to click this button here and invite a supplier. And again, that is really how a lot of these companies are engaging with BuildXact. They're seeing that their builders are asking them to get their prices into BuildXact, so it just makes your life, the builder and trade, easier just to build those quotes faster. So it's really a win-win for everybody. And there's, again, tons of features kind of behind the scenes that are coming out to make this process even easier, including some enhancements to our collaborative request for quote, which we're not going to go through today, but that's more just for your trades and suppliers to work more collaboratively through some costing of those external items. So I want to quickly just give that a plug there and know that is chugging away in the background. Awesome. So continue to keep your questions coming through, and we're going to jump into what was sort of referred to as our minor enhancements. But again, I feel like the word minor, it's not right there. Lots of little things that we're constantly doing in the system that are really coming again from a lot of feedback we're getting, like I mentioned earlier. And again, just little ways that we can make your life as easy as possible. So the first little thing we've done is that when you copy an estimate, one of the things that you can actually do now is you can have the quantities be removed when you make a duplicate of that. So there's really two key use cases there. And the first one, in my favorite, something I love talking about in our one-on-one trainings, is around creating estimate templates. So definitely one of the most common ways I see people creating estimate templates is by taking an old estimate, making a duplicate of that, and typically you want to remove the quantities. You probably want to remove the measurements, the plans, probably the statuses, quantities, and documents and notes. And you might make a bit of a further call here as if you want specs or quote content. But this is really by removing the quantities, it basically just means that all those categories and items are pulled across, but all the quantities are blank. So you can really jump into it and start to either tailor that as an estimate template or just jump back in, upload some new plans. Maybe you're doing a job that's pretty similar to an old job, but it's still different. So you might want to go ahead and upload the plans and do all those unique takeoffs. But again, a really minor thing to both make your life as easy as possible to either reuse estimates or around creating estimate templates as well too. Sort of related to that, and I'm going to jump into our jobs list here, is we got a lot of feedback from people that they found that one of surprisingly enough, one of their favorite ways to actually create estimate templates is by actually taking a job and repurposing it. And what we were finding is that for a lot of people, when they were building estimate templates, sometimes it's a little bit tricky when you're sort of sitting there and you're trying to think of all the different things that you might need, right? But inevitably what happens is when you go through a job, that's usually when those little things start to fall out, those little boxes of nails and a little extra timber and all that sort of stuff that sometimes, again, you just forget to add into your template, but inevitably will get entered in as a cost for the job. So what we've done to help you again in this area is you can actually create an estimate from a previous job. So if I click this here, this is again basically going to ask you just to quickly rename what your estimate would be, and then essentially it's going to make a copy of it and put that back into your estimate, and it's going to have all that information there. So again, a lot of people are creating the estimate from the job and then from there converting it to a template, and again it has all those little details there, so you have a lot more confidence that when you go to do another estimate from that estimate template, that it has all the details because you've just done a project like that or very similar where you've entered all the costs and kind of thing. So again, a really minor thing, but a super, super handy way just to really help you again create estimates and create estimate templates through that process. All right, another minor but important enhancement here is, and I know Dan loves this one because he loves Excel, but through a lot of feature requests, we've actually now give you the ability under the estimate costings to export this this whole entire screen into an Excel format, and it is an Excel friendly version of that document. So we know that there's a ton of different things that people want to do with their estimate costings. There's tons of analysis and there's tons of formulas, and some people really look to drill in on that. So that export to Excel is a really, really simple and easy way where you can get all this information into an Excel format, and that frees you up to obviously leverage the power of Excel for any other sort of further analysis or reporting or insight guidance that you might think of across that process. Related to that is actually also in the actual costings, we have another report in here too. Basically, you can do the same thing, but now you can do with the actuals. And I really love this one again too, because you can really drill into and really slice apart your actual costings in a ton of detail through the power of Excel. Now, for most people, they don't really worry too much about it. Build-Exact will obviously give the plus or minus variance and the dollar amount and the percentage so you can track as you go through. But we know some people really like to dive really deeply into their budgeting and into their analysis. And that's again, a great way you can get all that info out and start to use and play with it as you might need. So from there, another minor enhancement is actually going to be around our recipes. Now, we know that our recipes are very, very heavily used in Build-Exact. If you haven't, if you're not using much around recipes, we know this is an area that a lot of people come to us for a lot of training and guidance, then I would absolutely recommend that both on our website, we do have a ton of video tutorials here that go through a whole bunch of different recipe scenarios. So at the very bottom here, we have a decking and flooring one. We've got a framing recipe, a brick recipe, and a cladding and insulation recipe. So definitely, if you want to look at recipes and maybe going to the next level, check those out. We also have our advanced estimating webinar run by Dan Conlon, and I know Dan loves recipes. He does this so well. Nobody does does that webinar better than him. But again, we do have some training and some resources if you want to look at recipes, and if you feel you can get a little bit more out of them, then absolutely please do feel free to check that out. But our newest feature and update enhancement, and let me just quickly pop into oops, just going to mark this back as not sent. Just going to revert this estimate back. All right, awesome. Jump into this recipe. So our newest enhancement here is that we actually have the UOM inclusive and the UOM minimum. And I want to kind of take you through, like, what does that actually mean? Why are these helpful? Because it's a really minor thing, but it is actually really, really helpful. So just as a quick recap, essentially on how Build-Exact is doing this calculation, is what we're saying in the recipe is that all of this, all of these items, so 1 lineal meter of NOG, 2.22 studs made at 450 center, 1 lineal meter of bottom plate, and 1 lineal meter of top plate, that goes all into 1 lineal meter of takeoff. So what we've done is we do our takeoff, our lineal meter takeoff, and what that is going to do is it's basically going to take this number and times it by this number in here, and that's going to tell us that, oh yeah, okay, well, therefore off 121 lineal meters of framing, we need 121 lineal meters of NOGs, bottom plate, and top plate. But in here, it's going to go ahead and say, well, you need 268.8 studs. Well, that doesn't really make sense. You're not going to go buy 0.8 of a stud. So what the UM inclusive does here is it basically allows you to round that increment up. So in this case, we're not going to buy 0.68 of a stud. We're going to buy them in units of 1. So essentially, it's just going to round that unit of measurement up to a solid number essentially from there. So we don't have any weird decimal places. And it's kind of a nice little way that, again, you can just sort of manage and manipulate that measurement up a little bit. And related to that, we also have the UOM minimum. And so that would be basically where when you go to buy the material, it's going to come in at a minimum amount. So here's an example. Let's just say that I can't buy any less than 300 sticks of 300 studs. It comes in a bundle kind of thing. So I might say, well, 269, that's not enough. I need to buy at least minimum 300. So I can actually go ahead and type in the minimum in which I buy that volume in, and it will automatically just round it up, right? So that's all we're really doing there is we're looking to just round the number up either to the next increment or to a minimum amount essentially. So we can start to leverage off of these totals a lot easier when it comes to doing our purchase orders, and you don't have to try to do any additional math. You can essentially just incrementally count it up from there. Awesome. So keeping on time, we are coming into the final minutes of our webinar today. Want to just touch on a couple final things here, and then we'll stick around for questions. I've been seeing in the corner of my eye lots of questions coming in across a whole bunch of different things here. But again, just quickly highlighting that with these features today, we will be sending a follow-up email shortly here, a little bit later today, that will include the recording of this webinar. We'll also include links to some of the content we've talked about. So that's really just going to direct you primarily back to either a video tutorial or our FAQ, where we're going to take you through, where we have a bit more information. So if you want to go back and just work through each of those sections or each of those features I've talked about again, then again, you'll be able to do that. It's also going to have links to some of our webinars. So again, like I said, this might have exposed a couple areas that you're thinking, oh, gee, I'm not really familiar with the supplier integration or the request for quote, or maybe you're kind of feeling like the leads in the client portal, it's got a couple features now that make you think, yeah, I can see how that might benefit me and my clients. So you might want to learn about that or anything else here. So please do feel free to check out those webinars. They run either weekly or fortnightly. And again, links available either in the email or at any time by clicking the link there. And of course, we'll have a bunch of other links to just some other great support materials there. So again, just to continue to provide the best resources we can to make sure you're getting the most out of this system. On that, all the features we talked about today, they've come from your feedback. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you check out that feature suggestion area. Please keep it coming. Who knows, maybe in a couple of weeks, months, you might see a feature there that you recommended. So please, again, feel free to keep them coming across. We really value all your feedback as it continues to come in. And again, are really excited to build these features and to continue to assist. But on that, we'll stick around here for a couple more minutes to see if anybody has any questions. Getting lots of great stuff in here, so we'll stick around for a couple more moments. But if you got to head off, then of course, completely understand. And again, want to thank you for taking a bit of time to join us today, and keep your eyes out for more special webinars like this and the other ones that we'll be looking to run in the near future. Awesome. Awesome. Dan has been hammering away on those questions. Thank you very much, Dan, for taking some time to join those questions. I see 30 questions in there. That is fantastic. And quickly, again, if anybody does have any questions after this as well, too, feel free to reach out to our support team as well, too. Lots of great support people, and Kate, Ryan, Matt, Elliot, Corinne, Mona, lots of fantastic people in that support. Always willing to jump in and help out and answer any other questions. All right. Oh yeah, Dougal. Yeah, really quickly there, I can quickly answer that question for you there. So just jumping back to the dashboard here. So what you'll need to do firstly, Dougal, is you'll want to assign the task in the schedule to that particular contact. And then what you can do here on your schedule, you can search by resource. So this will basically, anytime a contact is assigned to a task, they're going to show up here. And then from there, you can then double check to see, okay, across all my schedules, where is that person assigned to? So again, it could be, subby or your electrician coming in, could be an employee, anything like that, or another contractor. Again, great way to just quickly double check that, and then again, it'll tell you, yeah, which job and which particular section, so you can jump in and check that out. Perfect. Thank you very much for that. All right, give it a couple more moments here. So we've had quite a few people leave, but still a couple people hanging around, which is awesome. All right, we'll give it another moment here. We've got a couple more questions, and then I think we'll wrap up today. It looks like most people have headed out. I'll quickly answer your question there, Jack. Jack just asked, are you looking to have quote requests once a job has been created, therefore quote accepted? Yeah, absolutely. That's something we're talking about internally. So yeah, it is something we're absolutely looking at talking about. So the best thing to do in that case is, I believe we have a feature request already for that. Give it an upvote. Again, as we look at feature requests, we're always looking at, we engage a whole bunch of different people, but really, again, looking at, what are those feature requests, what's near the top of the list, and really looking to do it. So ultimately, at the end of the day, more people that want it, it's more likely to get built, kind of thing. So Awesome. I'll quickly answer Daniel Morton. You have a question around a contractor portal soon. At present, I'm not aware of any conversations around a contractor portal, but I could 100% see where that would be a huge benefit. It's definitely something I could see would be great, hopefully in the not so distant future. Again, same thing before, if you haven't done so already, jump into our explore section there and make sure you do leave a feature request, because again, that's just going to be, that's just going to keep that item bumped up the top of the list, and it's going to happen sooner or later. Tanya just asked, will the webinar be available for later viewing? Yeah, absolutely. We will, as a part of the follow-up email, we will include a link to the webinar. And I think there's also a bit of a conversation around, we're going to make it live and on demand after as well too. I'm not quite sure where that's going to live, but again, check out that email, and if you lose it or anything like that, feel free to reach out to our support team, and they can always see where that where this webinar eventually ends up. All right. Give it another quick moment here. We've got one more question on deck, and then we might call it for time there. So I'll give Dan a quick moment there to jump into Daniel's question, and then we'll wrap up. But of course, again, like I said, and I've said it a few times, but I'll say it one last time, I promise, just because we're going to wrap up the webinar there doesn't mean that that's it. You can always send our questions across to our support team, and they can pick up and continue the conversation going. Perfect. A big kudos to Dan. I see Dan's getting a lot of love in the comments there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Dan. So we're going to leave it there for today. I just want to thank everybody again for taking a bit of time. Thank you for all of your questions. We really appreciate that. And yeah, we look forward to continuing to build these new features for your feedback. And hopefully, again, we'll be chatting in the not so distant future, doing another What's New webinar. Lots of great stuff. So on that, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. And we'll speak to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye now.